Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Open Mic, the show where every week I talk to writers, editors, agents, and others in the publishing game to learn about them and the work that they do. I'm your host, of course, Rich Eisen, and my guests today are a tag team, Nicole Moleti and Krista Wells, who write under the singular pen name Addison McKnight. They were on the show about a year ago to talk about their debut novel at that time, An Imperfect Plan. We'll talk about that a little bit today too, but they're back today to talk about their follow-up release, The Vineyard Remains, right here. We focused a bit in that first appearance on the pros and cons of writing as a team. Clearly, the system is still working. We're going to check in on that anyway, but just to see what they've learned and from that first go around to now that helped them to get from A to B. So let's get started. Nicole, Krista, welcome back to the open mic. How are you doing today?
Great. Thank you for having us back.
We love being on podcasts and connecting with a broader audience of readers and writers. So thanks for having us.
Oh, absolutely. Well, like I say, I'm going to hold it up one more time for those watching on YouTube, because as you
Yeah.
know, it was available on YouTube and it's available by all the major podcast platforms. I left that part out of my intro, but yes, you can please subscribe to both because that helps you and helps others find the show. Anyway, this is the new book, The Vineyard Remains. Tell me all about it.
Where should we start? Our first book, An Imperfect Plan, featured a very scary, grisly murder. And we finished that book and we thought about the characters and thought, oh my gosh, where will they go? Like, what will happen to these people? This book is not a sequel, but we just started thinking, where could you go if you had to start all over, if you were trying to escape your old life after something so horrible had happened? And Krista.
And we thought of where can you go? That's where President's Vacation and it's picturesque. And we instantly thought of Martha's Vineyard. And as beautiful and escapism as it is, we also started to delve into the kind of darker underbelly of the island. And then that's where the story takes off. It's about two different women. One who is, as Nicole described, escaping trauma from her past, and then another female character that is trying to get off the island no matter what. She's just like had enough of, has that kind of cabin fever and really wants to get away from the island. So they're both dealing with trauma, but they are handling it in different ways. One wants to have the island embrace her and the other wants to get away.
Well, the novel has been out for about a month from the day we're recording this. How has it been received so far?
We are so thrilled to say the response has been amazing, and it's spring break for us, for our kids, and a lot of our friends and family have been going away and taking the book on. We actually are running a contest right now. Send us a picture of yourself reading the book on a beach or away, and we're entering everyone to win a visit from us at their book club. So it could be local or it could be on Zoom if you're far away. We're getting so many pictures and so many messages saying how great the book is. People are finishing it in 2 days. And it's our sophomore effort. It's our second book. The first book kind of flew out of us. And the second book, we knew a little bit more about publishing. We knew a little bit more about writing, and we stalled, and it was not as easy. So to get the book out and then to have such a great response has been amazing.
Well, that's great. And actually, you know, I think anyone who regularly tunes into this show knows that my personal tastes and this show both tend to skew pretty heavily toward crime fiction, noir, mystery, more hard-boiled kinds of things. Um, I noticed on this one in particular, you refer to this as a women's fiction slash thriller hybrid, which that fascinates me. We're going to talk a little bit about genre and pigeonholing here in just a second anyway, but tell me what you mean by that this is a hybrid and how that maybe would come out to what readers can expect when they pick up this novel or even your first one, An Imperfect Plan.
Well, I think that the theme of our books is kind of a dark thriller vibe, but this book also has a little bit of soapy drama. So if you think about the show like The Affair or the show Bloodline, it has kind of an undercurrent of some relationships. And it was even listed in Amazon as small town fiction. So it kind of fits into you can wear a couple different hats. But it is that fun beach read that has a little bit of a darker vibe.
And we both work with women. I'm a makeup artist. I work with women all day, every day. And Krista is a life coach and a military spouse coach. So we are constantly hearing different stories from women. We're talking with each other, we're talking with people, and we're just so fascinated. It's almost becoming like our brand. We're currently working on our third book, and and we're diving into some issues that are specific to women, and that psychological suspense piece comes in every time. We're definitely not doing much romance, that's for sure, but we do feel like people like a little bit of romance, a little bit of soapiness, so we do kind of try to include that as well.
Well, I mean, I think, as we've seen with shows like Yellowstone and
Yes.
hundreds of others, the soapiness is something seems to be a pretty popular theme right now. Um, has it been easier this time around to read reviews? And I ask that because, I think the way I often ask that of writers is, do they read their reviews? But I think at the end of the day, everybody reads their reviews. And even if they tell you they don't, of course you do, because we're human, right? So I'm
Right.
just curious, was it easier this time to read reviews, good or bad?
Rich, we have no feelings anymore. We're numb. Since we became writers, we're completely, and I say that I am saying not just as a writing fiction. Previous to this, I was a beauty writer for Pop Sugar Beauty and Martha Stewart Weddings. You want to get your emotions just like on an emotional roller coaster and just feel just so bad about yourself. Just go write an article about like highlighter or lipstick. And the comments that you get is like, trolls and all this stuff. So we got our book deal and our agent said, this is great. Krista also wrote for the military publications and we did parenting writing. So she said, you guys are totally ready to be writers because we've been battered and abused for years. So nothing phases us.
We've gotten like 10 years of hate mail for writing nonfiction articles that someone didn't like one line in it. So now to get a little bit less stars, we're fine with that.
I always find it fascinating. If you don't like something, just move on. But nobody does that. They will take the time to sit down and write you some nasty gram just to make sure you know that you have heard their oh so important opinion. And it's just
right. And did they write a book? That's what I would like to know. Have they written a book?
Right. Or even an article or everyone's entitled to an opinion, but you're also entitled to keep it to yourself. That's the part we always forget. Well, how about the team writing process? Because it is fairly unique. Now, there's not that many people who write in teams. Did you do anything different this time around? Were there lessons you learned from your first experience doing this that you took into this that maybe you're now taking into the third book? I mean, how is that process working for you?
Well, I think we have our ups and downs. A lot of co-authors say that they get along all the time and everything's like rainbows and unicorns, and we do argue. But I think that our undercurrent of having like the same values and wanting to go to book signings together and our underlying friendship has saved us from a few hiccups along the way. And I think we had just as many hiccups with book 1 and book 2. I think that we might even be getting a little better.
We might be getting better, but we're learning this as this is our second book, is just the publishing industry. We're kind of learning by trial by fire and learning what that looks like and what happens when you get edits from your editor and how, like, the whole process. We're learning together, and it could be a little stressful. And so I think we're calming down a little bit, right? So
Yeah.
we don't get hysterical. We get bad, like you said, a bad review or a million red ink on our, manuscript. We're kind of getting our groove, I think. So we're able, and I say like, we probably just know a little bit more about each other too. I know that if I give her a chapter to look at, she's probably going to give it back to me within 24 hours. Like we're pretty good, I think, and we're very respectful of each other's time. We have 6 kids between us and 6 jobs between us, so we've acclimated to this and know that, okay, like I work weekends. I'm a realtor and a makeup artist, and she works more during the week. So we've really kind of figured out our schedules and how to make it work. I feel confident that we're, knock on wood,
Yeah,
we're
knock
good. We're getting the hang of it.
Well, and there really is that moment. I think all of us, like even with my agent, I remember on my current manuscript that's out there, getting feedback from our editor that we use, and oh, this is really great, all this complimentary stuff, and then you look at it, and it's like, my God, it looks like a bloodbath happened on this
I
thing, right?
know.
There's so much red. You're like, but you liked this, right? Because it looks
Right.
like you hated it. So that does take a little getting used to. There's no question about it. You got to have a thick, thick, thick skin if you're going to do this, anything creative, but really writing in particular. Um, Along those lines, what is maybe, and there may be more than one, but what is the one bit of advice you would give to anyone thinking of writing as a team?
I would say that you have to figure out what process works for you guys. Like we know other co-authors that write a chapter and then that person edits it and adds to it and then writes the next chapter. And I feel like there's pros and cons of that because you wouldn't have as much mix-ups in a timeline that Nicole and I have with each taking our own character. But I think you have to be if you have to have an undercurrent of like the same values and you respect each other and you respect each other's work ethic and you have to, though I think the actual particulars of how you're going to do the writing together will be independent based on each person that's going to go out and do it. But you can't work with someone if you don't value and respect them and kind of have the same broader vision. Like Nicole and I have the same vision of how we want our 3rd and 4th books to be, and like that we want commercial success and that we're both working in the same, I think, level of effort. So I think that matters.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. Very good.
What about the possibility maybe of doing solo work? Do you have any thoughts or plans on maybe, each writing your own books, maybe different areas than the thriller genre? Is there anything like that in the future for you?
I mean, who knows what could happen, but right now we have like we have 1 book written, our 3rd book, and we have 2 in the can, like kind of really amazing ideas and outlines. And so we keep thinking of so many really awesome ideas, and we're trying to get book deals and movie deals, and we are really enjoying this at this time. Our kids are a little bit older, we can really lean into this career at this time, and down the road, perhaps, but we're having fun now and it's working. So if it
Right,
ain't
yeah, if
broke,
it's not broke, right? Don't fix it.
yeah.
So your first book, I've mentioned it a few times, An Imperfect Plan. It deals a lot with the concept of achieving perfection. And I think a lot of writers can relate to that desire and the misery when you don't achieve it, as if anyone ever really could. But um, do you find yourselves struggling with that too, that desire or need to write the perfect sentences or perfect graphs or what have you? Is that an issue that you face on yourselves?
I don't.
No, we just don't want to be bad at it. Our bar is very low. We're nonfiction writers. I think I was pretty good as a nonfiction. Like I feel very confident, after 10 years, I'm sure you did too. When we dove into fiction, we both kind of were a little more insecure because we were new. So we're still learning. We just took Writer's Digest conferences a couple of weeks ago and like learned so much from other authors. We're always trying to learn and read books about writing and take classes, and we think we're very far from perfect. But yeah, I mean, it would be nice someday. But we don't, I don't think we put that much pressure on that. I think we both know we're not literary fiction writers. We love dark and twisty plots. And I think we're getting pretty good at that. And I think that's like our thing that we love, to get like a really big twist or a really good plot, and the sentence work will come.
I asked you a little bit earlier about the, I guess the definition of work, because I think anyone who has done this knows that agents, publishers, they want to pigeonhole your work, right? They want to know what genre is it. And it cracks me up because you hear the same thing over and over. Oh, from an agent at the beginning, and then later publishers, oh, we're really looking for a unique voice in this area. And no, they're not. Because then the next thing they ask you are, well, what are the comps that are just like the thing that you want us to buy, right? So on the one hand, we want something completely unique, except we need it to also be just like what everything else is, so we can sell it. And I get all that. I get it. I get the desire for both, and I do have an understanding of needing a comp, but it's kind of maddening, because it feels like what they really want is the next Gone Girl or whatever, Oprah or Reese Witherspoon is touting in their book club. And I think a lot of writers are tempted to, quote unquote, chase the market. You noted you have several ideas. Has that ever been something, when you think about, okay, where is this going to fit? How am I going to label this so it makes that marketing success more likely than, if it's labeled this? How much thought do you put into that when you're putting together storylines?
I think that would be something where we would just trust our agent. Like, we would present our idea to our agent and tell her this is our idea that we're really, really excited about. And then we would hope that as a team, we can tweak it and make it work in the market.
Well, that's a good perspective, because chasing the market never seems to work. Well, the other thing I think a lot of people understand is how slow these things actually work.
Oh, yes. Like, of course. I mean, I was even looking at some of the comps that we came up with for our third book that we're working on right now. And by the time it gets to like where we're pitching it, the comps are going to be completely obsolete and old. It's like you have to keep updating. To your point, yes, but we want to be relevant and marketable. At the same time, our interest has just been women's fiction and women's issues and thrillers and psychological suspense, which is really popular right now for publishers. So we've lucked out. In a few years, if the publishers and agent says to us, we really want you to write a vampire romance, we might be in trouble. I mean,
yeah. Yeah, we're lucky that our interests are in alignment with what the market's still reading.
Yeah.
Right. I was asking you earlier about reviews, and I've talked with a lot of writers who have flown across the country to go to a book release event or book signing and had 2 people show up, or they've had the opposite thing where they thought there may be 2 people and 100 showed up. What has been maybe the best fan experience you've had, and conversely, maybe the worst? And you don't have to name names, but just in general, what has been the best and worst experiences you've had with fans?
Well, I think that we haven't really done a book tour because our book was published in a different way, like it was more marketed online. But we've had private events for people that we've invited. So we knew that there wasn't going to be 0 people. Like, we would at least have some friends to come out and support us. And we have a book signing coming up in Martha's Vineyard, and we're really excited to go there and to be on the island and to be able to be there. And if there's no people, then we'll have to deal with that. We'll still be in Martha's Vineyard, and we can enjoy a beautiful couple days vacation with our family. So I guess we'll make the best of it. And that person that had like 0 people in her audience, I think it went viral online and it ended up being a good thing. So maybe you can turn lemons into lemonade if there's no one there in the vineyard when we go.
Right. Well, that's true. You could be in a worse locale. I mean, I think I know one writer who did that. He was in like Bessemer, Alabama, or someplace like that. You know, then
Yeah, and I've already experienced that with the military spouse community because I've been invited to come and do speeches and talks, and sometimes they think there's going to be hundreds of people there, and there's like 9 women, and other times they thought there's going to be 9 women, and there's 100. And I feel that as long as you're reaching the even a small audience, if you're reaching them and connecting with readers, and I think it's less about numbers and just being able to sit down and talk about your book, and even if there's one or two excited readers, like to enjoy that moment and, trust that not everybody's going to take time out of their schedule and come to every single book signing that you put out there.
I didn't have this as part of my original cadre of questions here, but I'm always curious too, because you both have busy lives, like kids, jobs. It is the rare writer in this day and age that can just write and not have to worry about also, doing a day job. How have you found the balance in your lives to be able to do this, and feel like you're able to fully commit to it and give it your best while also, because you're still being asked to give your best to, spouses, kids, jobs, all those things. I know everyone's got a little bit of a different way that they try to find balance, but how has that been for you two?
I think that we're both lucky that our jobs, our day jobs, I should say, are pretty flexible. And we can kind of make our schedules work for us. Secondly, I write at night and Krista does more in the morning. And so people say that to me all the time. Oh my God, you work all day and you're doing all your stuff with your family. And then you're going back to work on your book at night, but it doesn't feel like work. It's not work. I'm so passionate about it. I love it so much. I never feel like, oh God, I have to go work on my book. I'm sure she'd say the same. Sometimes if we have a lot of edits, maybe we get.
Yeah. And I have a similar schedule to like a psychologist where I see one-on-one clients during the week. And if I know I'm getting like a big edit back from my editor, I'll make a light couple of days. Like this week, I made a lighter week than I normally do because I know I'm getting edits back and I want to really dive in and look at them and have that time to do it. So I can, move my schedule around. What really helped me a lot was 2 authors told me that they went from working full-time to just writing full-time. And they said, we still wrote about the same amount per day. They said, like on a Saturday, I spend about 3 hours writing and then I go to my kids' game. And then during the week, they said when they were working, they'd work about 3-4 hours after work. And they said, but even now they get up in the morning around 10 or 11 and work 3-4 hours and they're done for the day. They're capped out with the amount that they can kind of stay looking at their book. So it helped me to not worry about the fact that we're working other full-time jobs. In addition to writing, like I think it's dreamy to think, oh, I would get up and write from like 8 to 5 every day if I didn't have a job. It doesn't seem realistic. So I think it's more fun to squeeze it in.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I would like, that's too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's really a wise perspective. I mean, this always comes off as name droppy, and I'm sorry if it does, but you can look it up because, I had a conversation for this podcast once with R.L. Stine, and he told me he writes 2,000 words a day, not 1,999 and not 2001, 2,000, and that's it. And even if he's stopping in the middle of a sentence, whatever, but it helps him pick it up the next day, especially if it's in the middle of a sentence, and get back to where he was mentally when he was writing those words. And it's just, that's the tool that works for him. Now, other people are different, whatever, but that's the tool that works for him. And I've always thought that was really interesting, a way to do it. But because it isn't easy. I mean, this is hard stuff. So you got to go back and find a way to get yourself back into that space to clear your head and write the stuff that you want to write. So I guess, whatever it is that works, writing in the middle of the night or writing in the middle of the day. But I think what you said has been reflected back at me by a lot of writers. They actually don't write 10,000 words a day. Well, unless you're Jonathan Mayberry or somebody like that, who I think could write a novel over breakfast, right? The rest of us mortals, it's not quite that easy. So,
and we only have to write half a book. So that helps us a little bit with the squeezing it in.
Yeah. distribution of responsibility. That's a great thing. Well, I like to always end on a fun question. I like to end on something that I think is hopefully fun, a little thought-provoking here. And you may have different answers on that. This is okay, because you're for once here, I'm not talking to a singular person, I'm talking to two. So I like to say, if I had the power to put you together with one of the following three people for whatever, conversation, drinks, talking about writing, whatever, who would you choose and why? Three options I'm going to give you are Estee Lauder, Jane Fonda, or Melinda French Gates. One of those three I could put you together with for whatever time you want to spend.
Two of us get to go with one person.
You can each choose one if you want. I'm going to make the rare exception here because there's two of you, but those are your
Or
options.
do you want to go together?
I would do Estee Lauder,
Okay.
and wouldn't you?
Yes.
So we would both do Estee Lauder.
She's an icon. I'm a makeup artist, so that's my thing. But also too, I love stories about women in, leadership roles. I think we both do. And everyone in that list is, but I don't know. I would be very interested in her story. And I like a family saga, the Lauders.
Well, the thing I always tell people afterward, I always have a theme. It may not even seem like it at the beginning, but the theme on that one, of course, was that, yes, those are three very accomplished, powerful women who are leaders of large, even Jane Fonda. I mean, she's an industry unto herself.
Yeah.
You certainly know all about Melinda Gates and Estee Lauder. So that was actually the connective tissue there, is that they're all tremendous leaders in the world. So, well, ladies, thank you so much for coming on again today. Nicole Moleti and Krista Wells. Hey, look, I'm going to hold the ball for those of you on YouTube. I'm going to hold it up one more time. The Vineyard Remains. Addison McKnight. Don't look for their names. Look for Addison McKnight. And if you are looking for them, you might as well look for An Imperfect Plan as well, which was their debut novel, which came out a year ago or 2 years ago now. I don't
2 years ago. And both of the books are available on Amazon.com, Target.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and Audible and Kindle as well.
Yes, and if you are on the YouTube channel, you can see An Imperfect Plan right behind Krista there. So
yeah,
you always find them. So anyway, ladies, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm going to leave you guys with the same thing that I always leave everybody with, which is a reminder, please, if you haven't, hit subscribe, whatever platform you're watching. If you have the time and the inclination, please leave a nice review. It really does help other people find the show. If you have friends, family, anyone that's interested in writing and publishing, which is, a lot to know here, it's a great way to learn something from people who do it and are very successful at it, and it doesn't cost you a penny. That is intentional, by the way, in case anyone asks. I don't have ads. I don't do anything to make money on the show. This is a labor of love because I love writers and I love writing. So there you go. I will say thank you again, ladies, for coming on the show. The very last thing I will say, as always, tomorrow is not promised to any of us. So please, whatever you're doing, make today count. For my guest, Nicole Moleti and Krista Wells, Addison McKnight, myself, Rich Eisen, this has been The Open Mic. I will see you next time. Take care.